Today we're going to be talking about the TV show Euphoria. Obviously typing those characters in the main characters in the TV show. Now, initially when I heard of Euphoria, I was very much against it. I'm like, I'm not going to fucking watch this teenage fucking garbage degenerate show. The fuck, what is this shit? The way I looked at some guy crying on the fucking floor half naked, I'm thinking, what the fuck is this, right? But then I actually watched it a few years after, and I'm thinking, this ain't that fucking bad. I like the drama. I like the Spurgeon. It was fun. It's definitely fun, and it's in fact, it's very well made. Ashtray, obviously, little motherfucker. We see him as a character that's very focused on his bread, right? Getting the things he wants. Not a very outspoken or talkative person. So he's not a character that's extremely extroverted in the sense of the socialization with other people, talking, just very straightforward, very blunt, to the point. Now, some of the things that really stand out with Ashtray is irrationality, as in not in a fucking true sense of the word, but very impulsive character that really has clear preference of action over intellect, right? So that's 100% what we see with him. And it's been highlighted multiple times when he was observing his brother and he thought he was in trouble, he was suspect. We can also pinpoint this to a bipolar, a suspicious individual. And when he has a kind of sense about someone, he spurgs the fuck out, right? He fucking acts on it with an exaggerated force instead of kind of dealing with it and understanding it. That was his demise, right? Guy who wants to get his shit. He's very pragmatic, very practical. We see him dealing drugs as when he was a kid. So even early on, this is the kind of personality he has. Here I would type him SLE-SP8863, probably, right? When it comes to his brother, Fezco, that's also pretty simple. I mean, one of the things that stood out to me was Fezco's demeanor, really, right? And his demeanor and his voice and his slow way of talking and communicating, carrying himself, right? I was like, okay, very phlegmatic person. So that's one of the things you already see about him. Calm, very relaxed. Again, not a very emotional character. And on the other hand, we also see him being very sensorical. He's very grounded. There's not sign of any strong intuition in him. It's interesting because his introversion and his kind of indifference can give him almost this passive look, right? This passivity. But when we see him confronting Nate Jacobs, he fucks him up. Like there's nothing there. He fucking butchers Nate. That's where we see the pushback, the ability to, if you mess with me, I might look like I'm a fucking snowflake, or I might look like I'm a passive, easy-go-lucky guy. But if you really, really fuck with people I care about, people I love, I will fuck you up. And that's very much Fezco in a nutshell.
I don't know what's been going on with you, Rue, and Jules and shit, but you should know, I really do care about her. All I'm saying is leave her and her friends alone. Or what? You're not gonna be having this conversation.
All of that in mind, I would definitely type him as an SLI SP9. Now, Jules, right? Jules is interesting because people have been typing Jules as an IEI for a long time, right? Because yes, it's true. She's incredibly intuitive. That we already know, right? Very kind of deep internal world, we can say, right? A lot of intuition going. So it's obvious. I mean, the chick dresses up as truly 60, as non-binary 69 fucking genders. You can assume safely she's an intuitive type. And yes, while she is intuitive, I see a lot of impulsivity, right? So that's one thing. A very impulsive character who, for me, seems to struggle with boredom, right? Probably be prone to escapism, not dealing with her issues and putting herself in potentially dangerous situations. We also see that thirst for adventure, doing shit that's prohibited, is also something she can really have a liking for. Jules, in general, I also view her as a character who's much more situational with her feelings, with her attachments to people, and you see that when she deals with how she deals with her relationship with Rue. Now, Rue's feelings are very... Rue took this relationship extremely serious. But you see, from what I remember, Jules was fucking around. She really wasn't in it 100%. She was kind of fucking really taking it lightly. So that's why I really see, okay, and most people would say that cannot be a 5 valuation, because if she was a 5 valuing, she wouldn't have such a flaky, inconsistent behavior when it comes to that. Taking it as a joke almost, or not taking it seriously, not taking those relations, those changeable attitudes seriously. But not exactly, because if a creative can do exactly that, it is quite really inconsistent all over the place. The more unhealthy she is, she's really not even dealing with her issues. Jules is not a person who deals with her problems. Jules seems like a person who runs away from her problems, and really dealing with those situations that not the best way. Jules, I'd argue, probably IE SX7. Now, remember when I said IE SX7s are the non-binary 69 gender flying unicorns? I'm not wrong about this, guys, and this is not just a funny joke. While it is a joke, every joke, at some point probably reflects some reality, some stereotypical reality. So, obviously, don't go around typing 69 gender non-binaries as an IESX7, but don't be surprised if they are this type. Kat Hernandez, generally what really seems apparent is her insecurity. She comes across as quite shy, insecure, self-conscious, a girl who doesn't want to fit in, right? And we see that it's a big struggle to kind of desire to belong. Kat is a funny character because it's often uses this caricature of an IEI in terms of their really SC circle jerkin. And yeah, okay, it's true, but this is such an extreme fucking example. This is, I would be very concerned if an actually fucking IEI was in their basement jerking off to fucking SC that way. She's a writer, right? She writes those fucking porno flicks, porno fanfics, and people love her on the internet. She's kind of hiding really who she is there. She can be whoever she wants. That's the thing, right? On the internet, she doesn't even have to show her face. She's this persona. She's this kind of avatar profile picture with no face. And people love her. People adore her writing. So she has a following, and people do appreciate that. Further down the line, she becomes this dominatrix, which is really fucking funny when you think about it. But even that kind of that dominatrix, that already seems a bit S-tier there. Okay. She then becomes much more sure of herself, right? I mean, once she finds out motherfuckers want to bust nuts to her, and she sees so many dudes jerking off to her, that gave a little bit of that inflation of ego. She understands, oh, maybe I am not ugly. Maybe I'm not really repulsive to people. Maybe I am desirable. I'm liked. I'm wanted. And that gave her that, satisfaction of her ego to feel self-worth, because she never had that. And sadly, in her case, she relied on sexuality, which is, something that a tactic that many people can really rely on. Usually, it's unhealthy shit, but that's what happened. She became more confident. She, changed her whole look. She was fucking walking with her ass jiggling. She didn't give a fuck. And much more rebellious. She always had that really rebellious streak. And the biggest thing that people associate with Kat is her, jerking off to SC. Now, this jerking off to SC is seen in multiple scenes, I think. Yes, she literally daydreams about an SE Chadwick literally bathing in fucking blood, like yelling some kind of fucking Viking terms, saying she's gonna fuck her. And she's into that shit. She wants to keep in mind that she already has someone. She's dating this guy who's a really cool guy. He's nice, but he's a twink. He's nice, but he's soft. And at the same time, while she's dating him, she's daydreaming about getting fucked by this Chadwick. Really a very typical fucking story, reflected in real life too. I'd probably type Kat as an IEI social 4. Seems like an intuitive type, a deep internal world, yes, introverted, shy, insecure, and she has all of the issues of a social 4, right? Issues with that self-hatred, using this internet and that kind of feeling like she's desired as a form of escape. That's my typing of Kat. Now, Nate Jacobs. Now, Nate, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it's extremely difficult to type Nate, in my opinion. Now, obviously, many people are very confident. He's an LSI. He's such a great LSI example. Now, I'd never think he's a great LSI example, because if he was, many people wouldn't fucking struggle to type him, right? Some people say SE base, especially in the beginning, and some people say completely something else, like an LIE. So, where the fuck are we? Where are we in those camps? You can see, yes, early on, you see some what attitudes are clear in Nate. Yes, okay, he categorizes women, and then he has that more rigid attitude in what he likes, what he doesn't like, what a woman should be like. You can argue that's more rational behavior. Cool. We also see him planning. We also see him can be boisterous at times, can be quite expressive, but also down the line he becomes brooding, he becomes more introverted. He's simply not the big alpha male Chadwick he painted himself to be in front of his fucking bad friends. One thing that is clear though is his third wheel, right? That is just, and it doesn't matter what you vote him, we all agree his third wheel. In the case of Nate, he's a man who really has a difficult time accepting himself. This is seen in multiple occasions. The guy there's a play and he's trying to he basically gets made fun of. Not exactly like super directly, but he's part of the joke squad. So they made fun of the jokes and he basically was spurging out. He couldn't cope, he couldn't sit there, so he left. And in general, there are, themes of him liking fucking bad play, liking dicks. That's really up to your fucking speculation. There's no real proof. Of course, the motherfucker has 1,000 fucking dick pics on his phone is a bit fucking strange. There's no way, right? Your girl opens your phone, 1,000 fucking dick pics. I mean, what the fuck are you gonna say? Besides, I've been told he was on Grindr. Well, I don't know what the fuck that was. I was talking to some people and I said, what the fuck is this? And they told me this motherfucker is gay because no straight male will be on fucking Grindr. So either way, he's fucked by default. Wanted to conform to his father's desires of how to be a man. Wanted to kind of fit those ideas of how to be macho, how to be masculine. And also not to disappoint his father. He's been trying so hard not to disappoint his father. To be successful and go and do as he wishes. So you see a lot of conformism. And most importantly, you also see an interesting trait in Nate where he's quite indirect when he's dealing with people. He relies on what? A very indirect ways of butchering motherfuckers, which is not only it would never happen with an SC base, but it is very much a behavioral 3V. Using blackmail, using again, manipulation. It's relying on very indirect, sleazy, snaky methods to instill fear in people or win situations, and that's what he does. He is quite capable of planning things out, really pinning crimes on the other guy, right? And a lot of coping involved there. But in general, more direct, more indirect, more Machiavellian character. You have some of that methodicalness with foresight. Now, many people would say, okay, that made sense for an LIE, right? I mean, the fucking guy, he was the one who thought of those things out, right? The assault, let's pin all the crime on that motherfucker. And the blackmail, the very indirect blackmail, he doesn't want to get his hands dirty. And it's funny, for someone who's like, is he like 6'7"? So he's 6'7". We have two choices. You either type him social 3, LIE. You rely on the fact he's flexing that SC mob. He's actually not that fucking assertive. You see how he talks to people. He gets fucking domed a lot. And he gets pressured and even domed by his own father, which has pretty good handle of SE, executing his plans, scheming with those plans, waiting, taking time rather than striking aggressively in the spur of a moment and being action-oriented. On the other side, you have the other camp, which is the LSI Sexual 6, right? And both of those typings I would not be mad about. I don't really have a horse in this race, but I think we should definitely debate this fucking type. This should be a chance to sit down and really try to pinpoint it. Then we have Carl Jacobs, which is his father, right? Now, as I mentioned, Carl has pretty good handle on SE. I mean, he's quite assertive, he's direct, and he dumped the fuck out of Nate, right? Nate was spurging on the ground, which is so weird. What kind of fucking LSI would behave that way? That's what blows my mind. You wanna know what kind of fucking LSI lays on the floor wailing like a fucking girl, like a girl, teenage girl. Like what the fuck? So, in general, a pretty assertive person. We see him being portrayed as a hard-working man who provides for his family. A man who he is a great businessman, right? Quite powerful, but low-key. He wants to portray this image of the happy family. He's just a businessman. He's doing his thing. Little do you know, he's a butt fondler. He's a butt lover. He does fucking the boys or fucking men, whatever, transgenders. So that's kind of his secret. That's his little secret, right? Now, if I was to type Carl, he does seem a bit NPC coded. But we also see him trying to enforce some kind of standards or push Nate to fit those standards of perfection. Not perfection, but to reach his potential. Maybe that's a good way to put it. To reach the greatness that he's supposed to have, he's supposed to reach. So he can be quite exacting and quite pushy when it comes to that with his own son. Gave him fucking PTSD. I would type him SP3 LSC, personally. I just don't see any sign of intuition. And why SP3? Again, he portrays himself as a guy who just, does his job very well. He wants to keep it low-key while being a fucking degenerate. There's really not much, I guess you could argue, SO3, but I just don't see the focus on the social vanity. Now, Rue. Rue is very interesting, but just like Fezco, she's also quite easy to figure out, in my opinion. Now, again, one of the things you see with Rue, the demeanor, right, the temperament. So, quite phlegmatic, and really what paints Rue as a great example of her Enneagram type, in my opinion, is how she deals with trauma, how she deals with stress, how she deals with disappointment. Again, she indulges completely in the sensorical world to numb herself out, becomes a severe drug addict, tries to indulge in the sensorical to really as a form of numbing herself, right? She almost loses, she's completely not in touch with who she is, who she loves. She starts kind of burning bridges with people and distancing herself from her loved ones, creating, again, so many familial issues because of her addiction and the need to indulge. And this is an example of a very unhealthy coping mechanism of the 9. Many SP9s can eat too much, they can be obese fucks, they can, indulge in anything, comfort, anything that really eases, makes them not think much, right? That's what it does. You don't need to think, you don't need to stress, you don't need to feel. It numbs you the fuck out completely. So that is something that is quite clear in Rue. Now, Rue is, would I use Rue or would I use Fezco as an example of an SLI SP9? What would be better? Generally, probably Fezco. The reason why I'm just going to say that, even though Rue captures the neurosis of SP9 very well with her fucking coping, many people did argue, she's very fucking aggro. She's aggressive, she's explosive, and yes, SP9 can be that way. But she, as many people say, she almost acts like an SE valuer sometimes. But you can make an argument that she's acting that way because she is a drug addict. Usually drugs and substances alter our personalities and our behavior. Then we have Lexi. Now, it was kind of hard to really remember much about Lexi, but the things that really strike me the most, and I had a bit of difficulty typing her. I would say shy, passive, right, and keeps to herself. So she's actually the most non-fucking degenerate of all of them. Somewhat down to earth, really friendly and likable person. But it's funny because she gets overshadowed by her family. She gets overshadowed by every single character that is known for spurging, for acting out, especially her sister, Cassie. So in this case, you see all of her really issues and all of her traumas get overshadowed. She doesn't exist. She becomes invisible. So that's the thing with Lexi. She really is an observer. She is invisible in her own life. Yet, she has a very deep internal world, right? A lot of emotional stuff going on there too. But here we see another trait of Lexi that I think is important to her typing. Not a person that really shares her sentiments with others or her emotions with others. She's quite controlled emotionally. She's quite stoic, one might say, right? She keeps them to herself more or less, but she is judgmental and she can look down on people, as seen with how she treats her own sister, right? She does look down on her for engaging in some of the fucking dead-gen behaviors that she does. But hey, sorry, this is fucking Euphoria, so you should fucking deal with it. Now, all of this pain and all of this issue and dissatisfaction with her own life, it all starts to appear when she's doing her play for the school project. And that's when she kind of paints a story. She creates a story using the play. And that's where all her fucking feelings and how she felt misunderstood and how she felt like, again, people didn't give a fuck about her, it all comes out. Now, some of the things I would say is important to note that, so, in general, if I was to type, I would probably say EII. Now, people argue EII. But, in my opinion, her attitude towards her feelings and sentiments and how she deals with closeness with people, it does seem more FI based to me. Enneagram was a fucking mystery. I don't think she's an SP6 actually. I just don't see any of that kind of fear and kind of focus on security. I just don't see it as much. If anything, SO4, maybe like an EII SO4. But I'm not the most confident on her Enneagram type, mainly because it's funny, but even the viewers, we neglected Lexi. Even the viewers slept on Lexi. We didn't think she had an important role to fill in the fucking TV show. But then in the end, she was a big part of the show. So they fucked us. Now Cass, she's a spurg, yeah? Okay, she's a fucking spurg. But really what is one of the most obvious things with Cass is her attitude towards her love interests. An attitude towards people. She is a people pleaser. She is a very adaptive character. I mean, she's the one who spends hours and hours preparing, to go out, preparing herself to make sure she looks as perfect as possible for her love ideal. Preparing to kind of make herself attractive for Nate when she was trying to get Nate. And it's funny because she was basically trying to look the way Maddy did. She copied Maddy's style. She completely copied it because she knew that's what he likes. So he's like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do whatever you want. I'm going to do it however you want to be slurped. That's how she operates. Anything that you like, she'll do. She does represent some of the social 3 tendencies that Naranjo talked about. He mentioned that this type often gets abused by 8 cores and they like that shit for some fucking reason. I mean, if you're a SX3, maybe write down why you like that shit. They just don't like soft men. They don't like those softer men. That's why they're more attracted to those more domineering personalities, which is quite interesting. Because you think that's kind of more SC suggestive. Adaptability to the external world, to become the ideal, to adopt the look of the ideal, to be perfect for someone, it does scream, right, extrovert feeling, and it screams sexual 3. Now, she's quite passive, so she's very docile, she's very adaptable. So 9 figs somewhere there too, for sure. And in general, I would say yes, Cassie is a good example of a 3 core. One of the things with Cassie is that she would forget who she is. She'd get disrespected, she'd get mistreated, and really she just wanted to be loved and accepted, and all the other schoolboys wanted to fuck her, or they all thought she's a hoe. She did actually do it because she wanted to be loved. It's not like, oh, I must spread my fucking legs because I want dick. That's not what she was thinking. Maddy Perez, a very controversial type in 2. And I was also a bit confused. Now, we have 2 camps. Let's explore them. We have one camp which says Maddy is an extroverted feeling type. Okay, and the reasoning is usually that she adapts to the external, like Cassie. You're kind of thinking, what the fuck? She's like Cassie, she's not like Cassie. That's actually a big difference between them. But we see early on, she's kind of glamorized into this young girl who, she knows how to impress people. She's always impressing people. She's adapting. She's this best thing, most loved. And she's attempting to kind of really become this perfect individual, right? Attempting to fit those societal standards to impress those individuals. That was her whole shtick from the beginning. And people use that as an example of extrovert feeling. And would I fucking chop my motherfucking balls off for her type? Fuck no, I would not do that. I know better. Because the rational type Maddy is kind of weird. And her really adapting to other people, because that would mean her and Cassie are both the same type in Jungian, right? And there would actually be the same type in socionics, which is ESC. She's not just some adaptive motherfucker. She acts on her feelings in the moment. She literally comes in the middle of fucking nowhere, ruins shit, man. She's known for being very vocal, very outspoken, even at the detriment of everyone else. Seemingly coming across as someone who doesn't give a fuck what people think. Aggressive, and very, very pushy. We see she doms Cassie big time. Cassie is fucking scared, having a fucking heart attack in the classical 396 fashion, intensity seeking. She's much more outspoken, non-adaptive, and just going with what the she feels, going with what she thinks is right, even though, literally showing the middle finger to everyone involved. That's what she does. So in general, I just don't see similarity between her and someone like Cassie. Them being the same type, yes, different Enneagram type, but being the same sociotype, it just doesn't fucking work with me. So in general, I would say SEE, SX2, 287 probably the tri-type. I suggest you to have a little debate. Yeah, figure out Maddy's type, figure out Nate's type especially. And let's see what we can really learn about those characters. Because the show is, if you haven't seen the show, you should. Because the show is pretty fucking good. It is degenerate. Yes, there are dicks flopping in the fucking wind and some teas. But don't let that scare you. Don't be 3F. Anyway, I'm out. It was a good time. Ciao.